Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight on how to go to college and how to become an entrepreneur after college. So my guest today is Dan Ritter. He's the owner and partner of Power Seal, and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. So Dan, I usually start my guests out where they went to college. So where did you go?
I went to Rowan University in South Jersey.
Oh, okay, great.
Yes.
So let's go back in time. Where did you go to high school, and when did the process start in your mind of, you wanted to go to college?
Well, went to Hamilton High West in Hamilton, New Jersey. Born and raised in Hamilton, so that was the local high school that I went to. And, typically when you're in high school, you really don't know what direction you want to go in, but there gets a point usually around that junior going into senior year where you have to kind of sit down and really think about your future. And that's when you go and sit with your guidance counselor and, they give you the guidance that you need to try to make that right decision on what school you want to make, what career path you want to follow. So that's kind of the first step, going in, sitting down with the guidance counselor to try to figure out where I might want to go and what the options were available for me at that point.
Now, you've been out of school for quite a while.
Yes.
So was it the time of, the guidance counselor gives you a big book, or was it the time where they have they have more of a technical things? Where
Correct. Now it's a lot easier to get online and take a virtual tour of a lot of places. Back when I was getting ready to go to college, we unfortunately didn't have that luxury. We had to look at a pamphlet, look at a brochure. But the most important thing would be, at that point, you have to then make your visits. You go live and direct and kind of get a feel for the campus, the ambiance, what kind of activities and different things that are there for you at the school. So you get a really good feel of what life is going to be like there. That's the best way to really do it. And what I did with the guidance counselor is kind of determine what schools we might want to visit. And then it was getting together with my parents and then figuring out the plan of how we're going to go about visiting those schools and checking them out.
So now, was there a lot of schools that you looked into, or were there
I looked at about 5 schools. I looked at 5 schools, which helped me narrow it down. That I then applied to 3.
So, are you looking at the Northeast, the South, the Midwest? How did you come about? Just was it Rowan and that was it?
Well, how I made my decision on Rowan was a couple factors. I was a high school athlete. I played football. They had a really good football program. My father it was called Glassboro State before it became Rowan University, so my father went there. That had a lot to do with it as well, kind of, following his footsteps more or less. And he was a really good helping hand with guiding me to make that right decision as well. So, and it was closer to home. I had a job as well at the time. I had to, support myself as well. I had payments and a car that I just got, so I had to make my payments. So I had to be able to go to school and then still be able to balance a job at the same time. So I had a job back home, and it made it easy I was only an hour away. So that kind of was a determining factor, being a little bit, I was close to home, but yet not too close.
Yeah.
So I was able to come home on the weekends and work as well to help support myself while I was in college.
So now, a lot of kids look at sports as an avenue to go to college.
Yes.
You said you played football.
Mm-hmm.
Well, was that an avenue that you thought about?
Yes, absolutely. It was something that I thought about doing. It helped me, make my decision on going to Rowan as well. Upon going there, though, and seeing how much time was going to be put into the academic side of things, I realized that, unfortunately, I'd love to be a professional football player, but I was a realist, and I realized that wasn't really the path that I was going to be taking. So I needed to put more of my focus towards the academic side of things and work on my college career more or less.
Okay, so now you're a junior in high school,
yeah,
and you're going through this process with your guidance counselors. Tell us what's the steps that you're taking with the guidance counselors and the steps that you're taking with mom and dad to start making your decision.
Well, from what I remember, sitting down with the guidance counselor is more along the lines of, seeing where my strengths were in academics in high school to kind of see maybe if that's going to lead me to a career path. Looking at my likes and interests and kind of using that, culminating that into helping us make the decisions on the schools that I wanted to apply to. You think you know what you want to do as you're going into that planning process, but as we all know, a lot of times you get into school and you see other things that you like. It's just, school, I look at it as that's your next stage in life. You're out of the home, you're taking your next step in your career. So when you go there, a lot of times those things change, and that changed for me too. I thought I was going to go to school to, go into exercise physiology and maybe like with a teacher's certificate. But, I got into there, the teaching cert didn't happen. I was putting my focus more towards the exercise and physiology. That I made that change and that decision upon going through school and, taking the classes that I was taking and kind of seeing the different things I liked and realizing that I didn't like some other aspects of it. Mm-hmm. So, going back again, you sit with the guidance counselor to try to figure out where you can go to kind of nurture that decision.
Right.
So
that's a big point for everybody to realize is the guidance counselor is there to guide you and really help you along. Did your high school coach do anything with football?
I remember my high school coach gave me a letter of recommendation that was then put in front of the college coach, and I'm assuming that helped me get into school at that point. I had pretty good grades, but that also helped. Schools are always looking for that student athlete, so right. I can only assume that helped me get into Rowan at that point. And in the end, that's the school that I chose to go to, Rowan. I liked it. I liked the campus. It was, like I said, it was close to home. My father went there. And I really felt like that was going to be the place that I was going to find what I wanted to do in life. So
grade point wise and SATs wise, what were schools back then looking at?
Well, I know the scoring's a lot different now with the SATs. I believe they were looking for anything around 1100 and above.
Okay, so 1600 was the SAT?
3.4, yeah, 1600 was the SAT at that point. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a 3.3 or 3.4 grade point average, something along those lines. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so now you get into senior year, and what are your mom and dad talking about with the 5 schools that you're now looking at? What were they talking about?
It wasn't as much as talking about it. It was planning on. The most important thing they realized too was going to the schools and making a visit to see what the school was all about, see what they were going to bring to the table. Now the aesthetics of the school, you have to like where you're living. There has to be things for you to do. There's got to be a nice athletic center. There's got to be places for you to go and things for you to do, and that's not sitting in your dorm room. And upon going to the different schools and seeing the locations and where they were, it was, I liked Rowan because it was a little bit more on the laid back side. My dad was able to take me around the town, show me some of the places where he used to go and hang out when he was in school. So I felt I felt like I was going back home, more or less. So that really made a big. I felt more comfortable. My parents really made it very comfortable for me making that decision because they were there for support. They asked me all the right questions. Yeah. Nothing was forced on me. I ended up choosing where I wanted to go, and they would ask me questions and do their best to steer me in the right direction and support whatever decision that I made. Because in the end, you have to be happy where you're going. Right. Because so many times I saw that the people that went there weren't happy, and they end up transferring and going to a different school. Right. So it's really important to try to find out where you want to go to prevent that from happening. And imagine you're trying to keep your grades up. Next thing you know, you're not happy, and you're worrying about transferring to a different school and starting all over again. So. Which is a big thing that a lot of kids do. Correct. The tendency on kids is not really picking the right school that fits them, both academically as well as maybe athletically or fine arts or something of that sort. So senior year comes. What were the 5 schools? Were they far away? Were they in Pennsylvania, New York? It was within probably 50 miles of home. I believe it was. I applied to Drexel, to Rutgers, to Glassboro State, to Towson. Towson actually was in Maryland. My cousins went there, and I visited them, so I liked the campus. There's another reason why you might not think about going to a school until you visit it and see what life is all about, and that may make you decide to try to apply there. I forget the 5th school. It's been so long ago. Yeah, but that's great. I mean, so really it was coming down to looking at other relatives that have been to schools or and friends their experiences that might have went. And hearing stories and seeing life on that campus and realizing that, hey, I could see myself being a part of that. Okay, so now you get accepted to the schools, and how did you make the decision after you get accepted? Because I'm assuming you got accepted for not just Rowan, but maybe a couple other schools. Correct. Right? So how do you make that decision? Does it still come down to, your dad went there and so on, or was it more that was you part of it? Had that focus on that one school? I was thinking about playing football, and they had a good football program, one of the best in Division III. My dad going there, and the economic side of things too. It was an in-state school, and at the time, compared to what people are paying now, it was very economical. Right. Housing was very economical, and it just felt like the perfect fit for me when I went there. That's why I feel like it's very important to make that actual visit. It's one thing to do a virtual tour,
Yeah.
but a lot of times on those virtual tours, they're showing you the things that they want to show you, whereas you got to go there, see the life that's going on, and think about yourself, being in that life and what that would be for you, and how you can become a part of it, and where that's going to take you and where that's going to lead you.
So it comes down to economics of the price of the school.
That was a large determining factor. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So now you go to Rowan University. What's that first day like? What do you remember about that first day?
I can remember first thing I remember going for orientation, and my parents were there with me as well. So it's very important to go to orientation, because that's when it's one thing to visit, but it's another thing to go to orientation for them to really give you a more in-depth tour of the school and talk to you about all the different buildings and places that you can go on campus. But I can remember the first day I moved in, my parents were there, and I remember we all went down, they helped me move in, and as soon as I got everything in my room, I was like, all right, see you guys. I was ready to go to college, and my mom talks about that too. The day she was sent her little boy off to college. So it was exciting. I remember that day meeting all of my suite mates that were in there, and then I still have friendships with those guys to this day. Wow. So that's one of the more important things too. It's not just your academic, but the friends and the people that you meet that are going to be important and influential in your life moving forward.
Yeah. So that's a big thing.
Absolutely.
So now you're in college and you start thinking about your physiology, I guess, your physical physiology.
Yeah, exercise physiology, health and exercise physiology. Yes.
And so that's your major at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Health and exercise science with a concentration on exercise physiology. Yes.
So I'm assuming the first 2 years are usually just the regular classes,
Correct.
the math, the sciences,
Correct.
and so on. But your last 2 years, what are you studying for that particular subject?
Well, a lot of that has to do with testing. If someone's on a treadmill, testing the lung capacity, testing body BMI, body mass index, just the things that go into keeping a healthy body, and a lot of things that people go into. I know there's a lot more advanced techniques now, but at the time it was a lot of breathing through a tube, checking lung capacities, heart rates, body mass index, things of that nature.
So almost like being a doctor, almost.
To a certain extent, absolutely.
So do you still use those kind of techniques and things?
Well, in my own personal life, to know what it takes to keep a healthy body. I take a lot of the things I learned in college and apply that towards me every day. Yeah. So absolutely.
So now you're in your last 2 years of college, and when does your mindset start thinking, okay, what am I doing after college?
Correct. Well, like you said, it gets like towards that last year or so when you realize, for me, I was at the point, and I'd been in college for the 4 years, and I was at the point where if I wanted to go further in that career, I'd have to do another 3 or 4 years. I know a lot of times what happens with people, they'll take a little break in between, and I was at the point where, I'll be honest with you, I got a little burnout from school. Mm-hmm. And at the point, there was a time that friends of mine and myself, we were starting our own business. There was a big business, was call center industry back in the mid to late 90s.
So is this happening in college?
This happens in college. My last 2 years in college, we started a call center business that the whole time I was working in college, I was working at a call center as a manager. So that's why I'd go home during the weekend and I'd work as a manager in the call center, and we kind of took that and translated that into, hey, we should do this ourselves. The whole entrepreneurial spirit, coming to life. And we started our own business, and money started coming in. We're getting clients, and hey, do I want to go do more school when I'm already feeling burnout, or do I want to go into this new exciting thing that we have experience in? And I've always been one to be able to do sales and marketing and advertising, and that was right up my alley. Yeah. So we got into that and started our own call center and built it over years we had a 100-seat call center at one point.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did that take all the way until after college to get to that point?
Correct. That was a building process. When we started with 4 seats. We were working on the phones ourselves, and that turned into 11 to 16 to 24 to 48 to 100 over the course of about 4 years. It was just, and that's another thing I take from going to college. You take certain classes and learn certain things of how to apply that in life, and we learned how to apply that to go after those different types of businesses and diversify ourselves to create a successful business.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. So whatever happened to that business?
Well, unfortunately, when the economy crashed in 2008, we were heavily vested in the mortgage industry. And unfortunately, a lot of our clients disappeared along with the great rates we were offering. So unfortunately, we had to close down our business. Yeah.
So that's entrepreneurship at its best, right?
Correct. Yes. There's ebbs and flows, there's ups and downs. And then unfortunately, that was a you have peaks and valleys, and that was a pretty low valley, and that we had to, dust off our shirts and like get back into the ring more or less, and that's where Power Seal comes in. We then created that entity as well.
All right, so now you graduated from college and you really you had a job already.
Correct.
So you created your own job as
Correct.
you're going. So the entrepreneurship mind really starts in college.
Correct.
Okay, so what kind of information you can give to families if their kids, their sons and daughters, want to get into entrepreneurship? What type of classes do you take for that?
I don't know if it's as much as taking a class for that. It's finding out what you really like to do in life. If you have a passion and it's something that you really like to do, like they say, if you do what you love, you're not really going to work. You're doing what you love every day. And I think that's important to kind of look at the strengths that your kids may have and to nurture that. See where they excel, and to maybe look at the different schools and paths that they may be able to take that. They already have the experience, they already have the passion for it, so let's move them into something that's going to help, progress that.
Yeah, that's great.
And be there for them, help them make the right decisions. Don't force anything, because if you force something on them, in the end, they're not going to want to do that, and that's where the transferring happens, or that's the next thing you know, they're back home, not knowing what they want to do.
All right, so now you're out of school. And Power Seal, how did you start up Power Seal? I'm assuming the call center went out of business, so 2008 is when it started?
Yes. It's at the point where you have to survive. So you're in survival mode. That's where the whole, you're manifesting your own destiny. Do I want to, and as they say with the Dunkin' Donuts, it's time to make the donuts. So you got to get up in the morning, don't hit the snooze, get up in the morning and make things happen. And, we're at the point where, okay, we can either fade away and do something that we don't want to do, or let's put our nose to the grindstone and make something happen. So we got into, like I said, we had been in doing sales and marketing and advertising with the call center, so we had that strong background, and we just translated that into helping people with their homes. And everybody, with the home, there's a lot of maintenance that's involved, a lot of exterior maintenance, and a lot of times, someone like you and I, we're so busy with our everyday lives, with our kids, with our jobs, we don't have time to do those things.
Right,
and yet we look at our house, we see an eyesore that we know has to be taken care of. So it kind of got into the whole thing of, we created marketing pieces, we're knocking on doors as our crews are working in the neighborhood, getting that good face-to-face approach, because that's where the trust aspect happens. So you go out there, and we started with simply working on people's driveways, and that turned into power washing their houses. Now we're doing roof stain cleaning, gutter repair, gutter inserts. So it's all those things that over time, if things aren't taken care of, it's going to show on your house, it's going to reflect. Then next thing you know, your homeowner's insurance company isn't happy with the looks of your house, and they're making you do something to update your policy.
Yeah.
So it could get to that point. So it could be functionality and it could be aesthetics as well. Some people just love to beautify their house. Other people, they have to do something with it.
Yeah. So now, if they want to get in contact with you, there's a website and a telephone number that's probably on our screen.
Correct. Refer to the website. Refer to the number. Free estimate for anybody that may be interested.
Great. And you're also a sponsor of my show.
Yes.
So that's something that's unique with a company like yours, being given back to the education of families.
Well, going back to thinking about that process of what I went through. I may not have been at the level of student athlete that I could have gotten, a scholarship somewhere, but I don't know that because I didn't look at all the different schools that might have been there to offer me a scholarship to some degree. Whereas that's what I really like about what you guys are doing. You're finding those other avenues that are out there. It's hard for someone to locate 10 schools that they want to go to, let alone however many you guys can help to link them up with. You're there to help that student athlete find, like I said, the big thing was economics of why I chose Rowan. If I had the opportunity maybe go to maybe a higher level school because I got that extra money, maybe I would have done that at that point, but I didn't have that option. Where that's where you guys come in, you give that option of say, look, there's all these other schools that are available to you, and this is what is on the table for you as well. And I think that could help them steer them in the right direction.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for anyone is to look at different types of schools and what's
absolutely.
out there. And it's just like you said, it's more the economics of people. Would you say the geographics is usually an area that people should look at as well in college?
Well, I know, like my cousin, she went to the other side of the country. For some people, they just have to get out of Dodge. So it's a matter of getting as far away from home as they can. Other people want to stay as close to home as possible. So to each their own when it comes to, location.
Yeah, and then how about academic-wise? They should fit into the school academically where
Absolutely.
they have to graduate with them.
Don't bite off more than you can chew, more or less. Go to a place where you're going to be comfortable, where you're going to be able to fit in to a certain extent, and don't take classes that you're not going to be able to excel in.
Yeah.
You know, realize your limits and, you know, choose your classes accordingly.
Now, were there any extracurricular things that were at the school?
Well, I myself, yeah, there's all kinds of extracurricular things, but I was active and I played sports, so I did a lot of intramural sports. You know, whether it's basketball or street hockey or flag football, anything to stay active, and that's how you met more people and made more friends.
Yeah.
I got lucky when I first moved into school. They just started to build the new rec center. So my second year of school, we had a brand new rec center, which was absolutely phenomenal, which opened up all these other opportunities for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's very important. See what kind of facilities are at the school. You don't want to go to a school where there's nothing to do, because then you're going to get bored and you're going to get in trouble. So go to a school where you're going to have things, you know, you have activities, stay busy. I mean, they're going to be busy enough with all the classes and work that they're going to have to do, but find an outlet to, you know, deal with, you know, there's a lot of stress when you're going to school. So find those different outlets through those facilities to help release that stress.
Now, outside the school, what's in the area at Rowan? You know, what do you do on the weekends and things like that? Was it more of a commuter school, or was it more at school?
I guess half and half. You know, I myself, like I said, I did a lot of commuting over the weekend. Through the week, I'd stay there. I'd go home Friday night or Saturday morning, and then I'd be back at school Sunday night. So for me, majority of my time was commuting, and I had a lot of friends that did that, or they got jobs, you know, somewhere closer to the campus. And, you know, there was your local, you know, watering holes and bars that they had there. There wasn't much, you know, Philly was maybe 45 minutes from there, so Philadelphia was close. So that was a place that we could go to see baseball games, football games, different, you know, bars and clubs. When you're in college, that's the thing to do. So.
Sure, and isn't it close to Atlantic City?
Correct. Atlantic City was probably a good 45 minutes, 50 minutes as well. But
so
I tried to stay away from Atlantic City.
So the beaches and things like that also appealing to some
Absolutely,
kids?
absolutely. You know, everybody always talks about the Jersey Shore, and Jersey Shore wasn't that far away. So that's another reason why, you know, just the location, and it's right in the middle of all these different things that you could do. So that makes it important, because you want to have activities, you want to have an outlet and places to go and things to do. Yeah,
it's great. I mean, so some of the important aspects that you've pulled up is really economical, where find a school that matches your price range. How did you come about? Did you pay for everything yourself, or was
I got some grants. I believe I got a Pell Grant, and I got another grant when I went to school. I took out student loans. I paid for my own education, but my parents paid for my housing. Now, when you're your first year or two, you're on campus, but then as soon as you move off, that's when my parents helped me out with my off-campus living.
So now they have a lot of that going on right now, where the kids are coming out with such huge amounts of debt. Back then, the schools weren't as expensive.
Correct.
So the debt is a lot smaller back then, but you're still coming out of school with some kind of student loan, right? Mm-hmm. So how does someone take care of starting to pay back their student loan? What did you do when you first got out of school?
Well, you know, when you first get out of school, fortunately for me, I had a business that was starting that I was able to roll right into, that had an income that allowed me to pay my bills and my student loan, and, you know, be able to save some money at the same time. It's a matter of what you're able to do and what your capabilities are and what's in front of you. It all depends on what kind of job you get. You know, maybe you get the job that you're only able to cover a certain amount of your bills, so then maybe you got to get a second job. So it's about, you know, if you're not able to pay the bills with the one job you get, maybe you have to go out there and get a second job until you're able to move up in that first business, or find another job that is going to pay the bills for you.
And when does it usually start? I mean, do you start paying for these loans right after school, you graduate college, or did they give you 6 months, a year?
I believe there was a time that there was a lapse from the point you graduate to when you have to start paying your loans back. From what I remember, don't quote me on this, but I think it was about a year. I think that they give you almost a year, and that's good, because, you know, in reality, you don't want to overwhelm someone right away when they're getting out. They're getting out of college, and now they're making that third stage. Now they're working on to their third stage of life. Yeah. First stage is you're at home. Second stage, you're out of home going to college. Now we're on our third stage of life. going into that career that you're going to then be in for, who knows, the next 20, 30, 40 years of your life.
Right.
Sometimes that doesn't happen right away. Sometimes you have to get a certain amount of jobs, try certain things out to see what fits and what you like. Because again, you want to do what you like, because you don't want to feel like you're going to work every day.
I totally agree with that. Absolutely. So we're coming to the end of our show. So usually what I ask my guests is, what advice do you want to give to the parents of what you went through and what they should do with their sons and daughters to go to college and maybe want to become an entrepreneur after college?
Nurture their decision, be there for them. Again, answer any questions that they have, and just be there in a supporting role, because it's all about what your child wants to do in life, not what you want them to do. Because if it gets to the point where you're trying to push them on what you want them to do, it's not going to work. So you need to be there in a supportive role, answer any and all questions that you can, and just be there to nurture their decision to lead them in the right path that because as a parent, you know the personality of your kid, you know what they like and what they don't like, so steer them in the direction of something that they do like and that they do want to do. And who knows, maybe they'll turn that into a business of their own and become an entrepreneur in the end.
Great.
So I think it's about being supportive, don't push anything, do your best to get them to, don't do a virtual tour online, get there at the school, because I think that's very important. Get your feet on the ground and see what's going on, and that's going to help you guys make your right decision.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much for coming to the show. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.